Missing Idaho children remains behind bars 3 days after her bail was reduced to $1 million. We're told Lori Vallow hasn't been able to find a local bail bonds company willing to work with her. Madison County jail officials say they have the paperwork and the ankle bracelet ready if she can post the $1 million bail. As the search for her children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow continues, questions remain about the death of Chad Daybell's late wife, Tammy.
Yeah, it has been 3 months since the 49-year-old's body was exhumed from her grave in Springville, Utah, the same town the couple called home for nearly 20 years. As KSL investigator Brittany Glass explains, it is also where authorities suspect that they could uncover exhumed evidence needed to crack open this case.
Tucked under a large, sprawling tree at Springville's Evergreen Cemetery.
When someone is buried, you hope you don't have to ever disturb that ground. So I look at this as a very humble area right now in this cemetery.
The dirt's disrupted. This is the grave where Tammy Daybell was laid to rest and where her body was exhumed on the morning of December 11th.
We did it as confidential as we could. That our parks workers ended up here on a Wednesday morning at 6 o'clock, lights on their tractors.
Loved ones were not in attendance at her gravesite like they were just 5 months before at her funeral. But as Rod Oldroyd with the city of Springville explains, multiple witnesses were.
County attorneys, the sheriff from Idaho, sheriff from Utah, coroner's assistants.
Tammy's body was taken to the Utah State Office of the Medical Examiner for an autopsy.
To this day, if I thought of Tammy Daybell, it would be that she's smiling and she's happy.
By 2:30 that afternoon, just 8 hours later, Tammy's body was returned, once again underground in small-town Springville, back where so much of the couple's story began.
I have known Chad and Tammy for a long, long time, as many people in Springville have.
Chad and his late wife grew up in town. They both graduated from Springville High School.
They went to high school together, and she worked for Springville City when they were engaged. She was responsible for a lot of the billing, so ambulance billing, cemetery billing.
In fact, they both worked there.
Chad worked for Springville City several times.
Chad worked for the city off and on from 1985 until 2014.
Digging graves, maintaining the cemetery, making sure the lawns are cut, pruning the trees, a little bit of everything.
And apparently, it was a family tradition. A 1992 Deseret News article tells the story of the Daybell brothers digging Springville graves to pay for their BYU educations. In 2001, Chad's work got more attention and another D-News story when he said his experience left him with many memorable moments from both the living and the dead. Chad resigned in October 2014.
He did a good job. We hated to have him go.
The Daybells moved to Idaho shortly thereafter. Almost 5 years later, in their Salem, Idaho home, Tammy died. According to her obituary, the 49-year-old passed away peacefully in her sleep, originally believed to be a natural death. And because Idaho law did not require an autopsy, the family had the option to decline one, and did.
Every state has a different death investigation system.
That likely wouldn't have been the case if Tammy had died in Utah. Our state law requires certain types of deaths be reported to the State Office of the Medical Examiner. Dr. Eric Christensen.
Deaths that occur suddenly, unexpectedly, by violence, child deaths, deaths in custody.
And when it comes to a possible criminal investigation,
if we think someone in our care was killed by someone else, we try and figure out if there is evidence that can be collected that would implicate that.
Tammy's cause and manner of death have yet to be officially determined. A final autopsy report hasn't been publicly released.
There's actually 100% Springville ties to this case, but whether or not anything happens here or happened here is yet to be seen.
But local law enforcement is prepared to respond.
And if we need to get involved, we will.
As speculation mounts against Chad Daybell and his new wife, Lori, the community can't help but think about how things are so different now.
Obviously, you hope it's not true. It's hard to think of everything that's going on, because we knew them when everything was fine.
But without those answers, at least for Tammy Daybell, resting in peace may be postponed.
And you look at that and just go, boy, there's a lot of questions that aren't answered yet. So hopefully that will come.
We could get Tammy's autopsy results literally any day now. The standard the state tries to meet is getting 90% of autopsy reports done within 60 days. We've now passed that goal by a month.
All right, so why are the results taking so long? Any idea?
Well, Mike Deeney, it could be for a number of reasons. Obviously, those results are not public in our state, but from my conversation with the chief ME, I learned that with any autopsy, all the samples are collected and there could be so many tests done. It's almost like a maze. Depending on the results of the first few tests, you can go down a rabbit hole of sorts to take other tests and to finally get that answer that you need. So now it really just is a wait and see game. Law enforcement will be notified, though, when the results come back.
We'll be anxiously waiting.
Yes,
Thanks,
I will.
Brittany.